Right, so we can't talk about the transfer portal with vagueness forever. At some point, you got to start name dropping. Well, moving forward, that's what we're going to be doing on our social media platform, on the website, and here on the Sooner Nation podcast. And there are transfer portal additions that win headlines, and then there are the transfer portal additions that win football games. And those two categories, they don't really overlap nearly as often as fans would like to believe. And I think one more time, going back to what we've already talked about in the first two segments, if Oklahoma is serious about becoming an SEC program in practice, not just in branding, not just in scheduling, not just in marketing, then its portal strategy has to move away from chasing flash and towards solving structural problems. And right now, it's no secret, one of Oklahoma's most pressing structural problems lives in the interior of the offensive line. And that's why a guy like Grant Seagren deserves real attention in Norman. This wouldn't be a move that's about splash. This would be a move that's 100% about fit, about timing, and really about what's necessary. With Fabechi Wewu, his eligibility now exhausted, Oklahoma enters the 2026 season with a familiar but dangerous question. Who stabilizes the interior when the competition level rises and the margin for error disappears? Because the Sooners have bodies, okay? They've got bodies. They've got young talent. But what they don't have is certainty. And uncertainty up front, particularly in this conference, it doesn't just lead to inconsistency, it leads to dysfunction. Grant Seagren doesn't solve everything, but he solves the right problem. He represents a different kind of portal profile. And we always talk about things that matter. This matters. He's not a former five-star guy. He's not a one-year wonder. He's not a social media win. Dude walked on at Nebraska. He redshirted. He waited. He developed. Then he transfers to Oklahoma State, and he earns his way into a starting role during what was an incredibly difficult season, under pressure, in real games, against real competition. That path tells you far more about a lineman than a recruiting ranking ever will. At 6'6", Seagren has the frame coaches want. Bill Bedenbaugh would love this dude. But more importantly, he's lived through multiple systems, multiple staffs, and multiple degrees of instability. So adjusting and adapting, not going to be a problem. That experience, it matters, especially for a program that cannot afford offensive line vitality, moving deeper into conference play, trying to take that next step. And that's where Weewu's departure changes a lot of things, because losing an experienced interior lineman doesn't just create a vacancy, it creates exposure. Interior offensive line play is where offenses either survive or they get swallowed up. You can hide a young tackle with chips and with helping. You can scheme around edge pressure. You cannot hide a soft or inexperienced interior lineman. Defensive coordinators know this. They test it relentlessly. They bring pressure up the middle. They collapse pockets. They force quarterbacks off timing and into mistakes. Oklahoma has promising young linemen, but promise is not protection. Asking underclassmen to immediately carry interior responsibilities against the type of fronts you face in this conference, it's not development, it's risk. And risk at guard or center creates cascading consequences: quarterback discomfort, run game inconsistency, third down inefficiency, and obviously red zone failures. That's why Oklahoma's need for an interior lineman, it's not optional, it is foundational. And one of the most underrated aspects of Seagren's profile is his positional flexibility. At Oklahoma State, he started games at right tackle. Now, that alone signals trust. Coaches don't put unprepared players on the edge. But this body type, experience, and development arc, they make him a legitimate candidate to slide inside, particularly at guard, where Oklahoma's need is its most acute. They got to have guys at guard. This is where portal philosophy becomes real. Oklahoma doesn't need flawless plug-and-play star on the interior of the line. What it needs is a lineman who can compete, immediately adapt, and raise the floor of the room. Seagren checks those boxes because he brings starting experience in power forward games, familiarity with multiple offensive systems, a physical profile suited for interior contact, and probably most importantly, he brings maturity. He's not entering the portal demanding guarantees. He's entering it ready to compete. And that matters more than what a lot of us realize. And it aligns directly with what Brent Venables wants Oklahoma to become. Venables has been clear, sometimes directly, sometimes indirectly, but he's been clear about the identity that he's building in Norman. He wants his team to be tougher, more resilient, less dependent on perfection, and all of that starts up front. Offensive linemen like Seagren, they fit Venables' vision because they don't require hype to function. They earn trust. They stabilize rooms. They allow younger players to develop without being thrown into the fire too early. This is also where Jim Nagy's role as general manager shows up. Oklahoma is not chasing portal stars anymore. It's chasing portfolio balance, experience, insurance, lineup flexibility. And again, Seagren's not a headline move. He's a portfolio move. And in the context of this conference, that amplifies everything. What worked in the Big 12 doesn't automatically translate in this league. And Oklahoma's already learned that lesson the hard way. Interior defenders, they're bigger. They are faster. They are more disciplined. Games are literally won by inches, not spacing. Offensive lines are tested every snap, not just on obvious passing downs. That's why adding a veteran lineman with starting experience matters more than adding another developmental prospect. So Oklahoma, they cannot afford to be young and thin at guard, not with this schedule, not with this league, not with this margin. Seagren gives Oklahoma options. He allows the staff to protect young players rather than to rush them. He gives quarterbacks cleaner pockets. He gives the run game a chance to function without perfect conditions. And that's the quiet value of smart portal additions. The best portal wins, they don't announce themselves loudly. They show up in snap counts and lineup consistency and fewer third and long disasters. If Oklahoma adds Grant Seagren, Sooner Nation, we may not celebrate in January. But I think by October, we're definitely going to feel it, right? We're going to feel it in fewer interior pressures and manageable down and distance situations and an offense that doesn't unravel when protection breaks down. Because that's what veteran linemen bring. That's what they do. They absorb chaos so everyone else can play faster. And that's the bottom line here. Oklahoma doesn't need an experiment on the offensive line. It needs answers. And sure, yeah, I'll be the first to tell you. I'll be the first one to tell you. Grant Seagren, not a guarantee. He is not a guarantee. No portal addition ever is. Go back to our previous segment and the mention of Jaden Knott. But he does represent the kind of calculated, experience-driven move that serious programs make when they understand what it actually takes to win games at a college football playoff level. And Way was, he's gone. And the Sooners have a choice. You got to replace him. You don't have that choice, but your choice in how you replace him, you can gamble on youth, or you can stabilize the interior with someone who has already proven he can survive pressure. In this level, survival up front, it's not optional. It is everything.